Hey. Thanks for tuning in. This is once again JD from Best MMA Picks. Uh, got another live broadcast here for UFC 195, Robbie Lawler versus Carlos Condit. This is taking place in Las Vegas, Nevada, this Saturday, January 2nd. And we've got a pretty decent card here. A couple fights I'm pretty excited to see. Very curious to see what the outcome is going to be on some of these fights. We have some pretty even odds on a lot of pretty tight matchups. There are a few betting opportunities that we are looking at right now, but we just wanted to kind of break down the general card here, and not going to get into a whole lot of details. Want to keep this short and sweet, but to start things off, just wanted to remind everybody out there, make sure that you're adding us on all of our social media channels, which can be found at the bottom of the description of this video. We will be releasing free picks and free plays, one of each on each social media channels. We release our top, most confident picks on each of those channels. And so you want to make sure that you're not missing out if you do bet MMA or UFC. Make sure that you add us on each of those uh, social media social media accounts. Um, but our main one that we post the majority of our picks is our Twitter, twitter.com/best MMA picks. And everything's 100% free. Please do like this video if you gain some insight from it, or you like our picks at all. Last card, very unpredictable card. A lot of handicappers really. A lot of the public plays were crushed. There were like almost all underdog plays that cashed. We did not have underdogs on our picks, not a whole lot anyway. So it was kind of a bad night, but planning to rebound from that and hopefully get a lot better slate here with the next card. So we'll start things off from the bottom of the card and work our way up. First bout we have is Edgar Garcia versus Sheldon Westcott. Did have a chance to view some of the footage on both these guys, and based on what I've seen with both of them, we've got a decent wrestler in Westcott and a state champion wrestler out of Yuma, Arizona, and Edgar Garcia. Garcia seems to be kind of a slower starter, whereas we have the opposite with Sheldon Westcott. And Sheldon Westcott tends to kind of come out really strong in the first round, very aggressive, likes to kind of smother his opponents, whereas Edgar Garcia tends to be kind of a slower starter, and he likes to kind of pick people apart with strikes, keep his distance, he usually will like to keep the fight standing, although he does have very good ground game and wrestling skills. He tends not to use those quite often. He uses his wrestling more in an offensive sense. He does have really good hands, a lot of power there, and Westcott has been vulnerable to, getting tagged. So that's something to kind of keep in mind there. I personally like, for my prediction, Edgar Garcia to defeat Sheldon Westcott, either by a TKO or split or unanimous decision. I'm going to go with the TKO here, late second round. And the odds are actually in favor of Sheldon Westcott to win this fight. I like this as a public fade play. Usually don't have to, fade prelim cards. Most of the favorites tend to win in prelims, but, I do like this play here. Not a whole lot of people know much about either of these fighters. So, Edgar Garcia is definitely on the radar there. As well as I would probably lean over on this, but, it could go under if somebody gets tagged early. So moving on to the next fight. Another fight that I'm looking forward to seeing, Joe Soto versus Michinori Tanaka. Soto looked really solid against TJ Dillashaw. He went off almost all 5 rounds. Got finished in the last round by Dillashaw, but he looked really solid in the first 2 rounds, coming on short notice against Dillashaw. I mean, this guy looked legit. He looked like he was holding his own against the champ for the majority of the fight. I want to see more of this guy. I do want to view some more footage before I make a decision on this. But as of right now, my prediction is for Joe Soto to defeat Mishinori Tanaka by TKO. One thing that I do not like about this, which I do want to find out a little bit more about, is the takedown defense of Joe Soto. He has been, seems like he does is a little bit vulnerable to takedowns, particularly when he fought against Dillashaw. He did get taken down, I think, 2 or 3 times. And he does have a submissions ground game, but against a guy like Tanaka, who is an expert submissions, chain submissions, judoist, and wrestler, I fear for Joe Soto if the fight does end up on the ground. I don't foresee that happening, but Mishinori Tanaka is very, very fast. He tends to get guys down quickly with trips, and he's very successful at that. So, Tanaka's no joke either. It just kind of depends on, who comes out and with their strategy and who dictates where the fight goes. But I like Joe Soto to clip Tanaka and get him. I don't think Tanaka's going to be able to handle those hands of Joe Soto. So that's what my prediction is. Moving on to the last fight, perhaps prelim. One fight that I'm really looking forward to, Joe Duffy versus Dustin Poirier. Both these guys are legit fighters. Both have fought Conor McGregor. Joe Duffy fought and was the last person to defeat Conor McGregor by a submission. To me, this fight, all arrows point to Joe Duffy to be the victor here. I don't think that I think that it would be in the best interest of the UFC for Joe Duffy to win because of the promotion in Ireland with Conor McGregor and throughout Europe. It's going to be good for the UFC for Joe Duffy to win. And we could even see a rematch between Conor McGregor and Joe Duffy, which would be, in my opinion, a very exciting fight with a lot of potential, to get a lot of viewers eventually. So my prediction is for Joe Duffy to defeat Dustin Poirier. Boy, I'm gonna go with a knockout here, TKO. Although I want to say submission, I just don't think that Duffy's going to be able to submit a guy like Poirier easily. So I'm going with a knockout or a TKO. I think he'll probably take his back and just start, wailing on him and getting that TKO victory. So that's my prediction. Probably come second round. Next fight, we have Drew Dober versus Scott Holtzman. Not going to put a whole lot into this one. Drew Dober has been very iffy, back and forth. He's had a couple losses in the UFC as well as a couple victories. He does have good wrestling. He does tend to shoot for takedowns quite a bit. I just think that Scott Holtzman is a much more solid fighter, much more well-rounded, less prone to making mistakes, much higher striking volume, and higher striking accuracy. I think he's the more solid fighter here, and I think he's going to get the job done. The odds suggest for him to win. I believe the odds were at 166, if I remember correctly. One's negative 166 for Scott Holtzman. Drew Dober as an underdog. I don't like him as an underdog. I think that Holtzman's going to get the job done here, probably by a decision, late TKO. So my official prediction for this is for Scott Holtzman to defeat Drew Dober by decision. Moving on to the next fight between the women in the strawweight division, we have Justine Kish versus Kish versus Nina Ansaroff. I've seen some footage of both these gals. I saw a fight against Miranda Marcos between Miranda Marcos and Justine Kish. I was very impressed with the way that, just the Muay Thai of Justin Kish, the elbows and the aggressiveness. Uh, she pretty much dominated Marcos with her performance, and she bloodied her up pretty good. And I see pretty much the same thing happening here with Ansarov. You don't want to sleep on Ansarov, though, but I just think that Kish is going to have the better Muay Thai. She's a women's Muay Thai champion, which says a lot. That's a pretty huge deal. And I see her getting a victory here rather easily. So my predictions for Justin Kish to defeat Nina Ansarov. I'm going to go on a limb here, and I'm going to say by TKO late. I think we could see a finish here, despite the odds being 2-1. I think that's might be a pretty good bet there. I'm going to put a little more thought into it though before I release that. Excuse me. Still fighting this bronchitis. It's been 2 weeks now. Kyle Noki versus Alex Morono. Nobody really giving Morono any respect here with the odds. Kyle Noki, I think, is a 2-1 favorite. And Noki has looked really, really solid as of late. Kind of taken things and turned it in the right direction from where he was headed before with a couple losses. I agree with the odds makers here. I'd like to see more footage on Alex Morono. I don't know much about the guy. I'd like to, do a little more research on him before, I come to any conclusions. But as of right now, I'm going to go with Kyle Noki by a decision here for victory. Although Noki has been finishing guys, so we could see TKO. I'm going to go with the TKO here. Actually, relatively new fighter. I think he'll gatekeep here, and we will see a finish, probably first or second round TKO. Last fight on Fox Sports 1 prelims: Michael McDonald versus Masanori Kanehara. Not much to say here except that I don't see anybody but Mayday winning, and I see it happening by TKO rather easily, probably first round late. I'm going to probably view a little bit of footage here. Probably will be laying off this one, but that's what I see here. Kanehara is going to probably go to sleep. McDonald's just too strong and too fast, and I think he's going to get the job done. Next fight, we have Abel Trujillo versus Tony Sims. This one could be really interesting. Tony Sims is being favored here at -130. And Tony Sims' last fight against Aubin Mercier, I think he could have won that fight rather easily. But Mercier did a very good job of dictating the fight, and he was smothering him and pushing him up against the cage, not allowing him to use those hands that he's well known for. And Trujillo, I think Trujillo does like to throw, but we could see the same thing happening here with that flaw that was exposed in Tony Sims' game with his takedown defense. We could see Trujillo trying to exploit that as well, although I don't think that he's quite the wrestler that Aubin Mercier was or is. I think we could see Tony Sims end up getting the better out of this one, even if he does get taken down some. I think Tony Sims has a higher likelihood of finishing Trujillo by a TKO. So I'm going with Tony Sims here, hoping he doesn't get taken down and smothered with top control. And I'm hoping that he's patched that up in his game. And I think he will. I think he'll come out victorious here. So I'm going with Tony Sims to defeat Abel Trujillo by TKO in the first round. Next fight should be a really exciting one between Diego Brandao and Brian Ortega. Two fighters going in two different directions here. Diego Brandao on a recession, and Brian Ortega on an incline, steady incline. And so Ortega is undefeated, and he just keeps getting better as a fighter. He's got really slick submissions, and we've seen Diego Brandao be vulnerable to submissions. And I think Brandao has a lower fight IQ, whereas Ortega has a much higher fight IQ. Diego Brandao has some ridiculous power, but I think Brian Ortega is smart enough of a fighter to avoid that power and ultimately get the fight where he wants it, which is going to be on the ground. But Ortega's no joke with his striking too. He's improved massively with his striking, and wouldn't be surprised to see him try to trade or stand in the pocket with Brandao. That could be a mistake if he does, and hopefully he does not. But there is a chance there that Brandao could get a KO, which may be not worth betting on this fight. So keep an eye on it, though. Definitely might be worth looking at an underplay. But my prediction is for Brian Ortega to defeat Diego Brandao by submission in the second round. Next fight here, which I'm really looking forward to, Lawrence Larkin versus Albert Tumenov. Tumenov has looked absolutely ridiculous with all of these TKO and KO victories he's had this last 4 fights. Larkin has also been the same. He's been finishing guys more, and since his drop in weight class, down a weight class, he's looked absolutely phenomenal. And I think he's undefeated at 170 right now. So, Larkin is a 2-1 underdog here. And I think that the odds makers are just not giving him enough respect here. I would be all over this. I think it's a great underdog play at 200. I think that this fight is pretty much a pick 'em. And I'd give the higher fight IQ to Lawrence Larkin. And I think he's going to be able to avoid the power of Tumenov and possibly even pick apart Tumenov and frustrate him. When Tumenov does not get that KO or early finish, he tends to get frustrated, and we have seen this happen before in the past. He ends up losing fights or getting like the split decision, robbery. So I'm going to take a shot here more than likely take a shot on Larkin. I think he's a good play at 200. Looking forward to this fight. I think it'll be really exciting. So keep an eye on Larkin. My official prediction is for Lawrence Larkin to defeat Albert Tumenov by decision. I think the over is worth a look as well. I think both these guys are intelligent strikers that will manage to stay awake and keep it on the feet. Next fight, another one I'm looking forward to. Stipe Miocic versus Andrei Arlovsky. Really simple here. Nobody's giving Arlovsky a chance here, and I think that's a mistake. I've been riding the Arlovsky money train for the whole year, and I don't think he's going to have any problems with Miocic. I think he's just as fast, if not faster than Miocic, and he has much more power than Miocic. Miocic, he hasn't not been finishing opponents in heavyweight, and I don't see him finishing Arlovsky. I see Arlovsky finishing Miocic pretty easily. If he connects, Miocic's going to sleep. I like that they have Jacksons and Winklejohn behind Arlovsky. Great camp, and they're going to exploit the weaknesses of Miocic. And I think Arlovsky's a great matchup for Miocic. Both of them, it's going to be really pretty evenly matched fight. And when we have a pick'em coin flip like this, guess who I'm going to go with? I'm going to go with the underdog. Miocic's a younger, fresher fighter, but Arlovsky has an experience there that Miocic does not have. Miocic's been against some tough competition, but Arlovsky's been in championship fights. So I'm giving the experience advantage to Arlovsky. Miocic throws at a higher volume, but Arlovsky picks his fights, or picks his shots deliberately, and he's a much better counter striker, and he's much better at timing his strikes than Miocic is. So, and that's what I think is going to happen here. I think Miocic's going to telegraph some of his strikes. I think Arlovsky's going to time him, and he's going to clip him just right, and he's going to get his title shot. So that's my prediction, Andrei Arlovsky to defeat Stipe Miocic by TKO. And the last fight here, which is a complete pick'em as of right now, the champion Robbie Lawler versus Carlos Condit. Uh, this one, really, I'm not going to overthink this one. And I think everybody's overthinking it. And I think that it's a mistake. Carlos Condit has Jackson Winklejohn behind him. Great coaches, great training camp. But what it's really going to boil down here to, in which we have seen in previous fights with Johnny Hendricks and GSP, it's the toughness of Robbie Lawler and the persistence and the dedication of Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler keeps getting better too, and he keeps decimating his opponents. And although Carlos Condit, I would say that since this fight is on the feet, I think that this is the best shot that Carlos Condit has at getting the title. I don't see it happening here. I see Robbie Lawler retaining the title, mainly because of the toughness of Robbie Lawler. Something that Carlos Condit does not have is that toughness, that grittiness of Robbie Lawler that you can't teach. Carlos Condit has been vulnerable to wrestlers. Robbie Lawler likes to keep the fight standing, but Robbie Lawler has just got toughness that Carlos Condit does not have. I see Carlos Condit getting really bloody here, just like we've seen in the other fights against other opponents of Robbie Lawler's. I don't see it being any different here, and I think it's a mistake. And once again, people are underestimating Robbie Lawler. I don't know why so many people are on the Condit train here. Everybody seems to be on Condit. And you know what? I'm going with Lawler. I'm going with my gut here. I think Lawler's going to get it done again, and I think it's a bargain at 110. I wouldn't be surprised if I place a sizable bet on Lawler. If there's anything that changes my mind, I'll definitely post it to Twitter, but that's my prediction. Robbie Lawler to defeat Carlos Condit by TKO. So that about sums it up. Please like our video if you liked it. That really helps us. We really appreciate the likes. We really appreciate the shares. Thanks for tuning in today. Make sure, once again, you add us to our social medias. And good luck, everybody. Let's cash this one out. I think it's going to be a much better card than last week. And I think there's much more clear-cut bets here. So everybody have a great weekend. Enjoy the fights. And we'll enjoy the fights. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.